so amazing. Thank you for having me. This is a dream to be here. Just to, I can't explain the feeling of being around so many inspiring leaders. What they put together, I mean, this is absolutely beautiful. Who would have thought on this beautiful day in New York City, I'm overlooking a golf course with top producing talent all over New York, and also flying in from different parts of the country. It's honestly, to me, what gets me up and gives me so much joy. I'm going to feed off of your guys' energy. Yeah. I feel blessed to be here, but thank you for that warm intro. It's actually, I got a little emotional when I saw Jackie walk through. Jackie's a friend of mine, and I invited her, and she was one of my assistants, and worked for me 15 years ago. It's about 15 years ago. We've come a long way. And we were really scrappy back then, selling a lot of short sales, REOs, and late nights bleeding our eyes out, trying to just make a deal happen. And just reflecting 15 years later, everything that we've been able to build, and just having you in the room today really means a lot to me. So thank you for coming. And she was a last minute invite. I was like, you need to be in the room. And that's what I love about the theme, is getting in the room with the right people. So I'd love for us today to just give ourselves permission to just reimagine what our life will look like when we surround ourselves with amazing people who are committed to just sharing and truly saying, what if I gave you permission to dream big? What if I gave you permission to just accept the fact that you are destined to do really awesome big things in your life? Would you guys just role play with me a little bit and just kind of participate? Just take a minute to just close your eyes. Take a minute to just take it all in. And I can see if you're participating. When I say close your eyes, I can see that you have your eyes closed. This is the role play. Okay. Just really take it in. Close your eyes and just reimagine what your life is going to look like when you finally give yourself permission to just win big in every area of your life. Just so good. Who are you going to become? Who are you doing it for? Just accept how awesome that feeling is. Take a deep breath in. Ooh, that felt good, right? And that is something I had to give myself permission to accept. I have paid a lot of money, hired some of the best coaches across the country, I think in the world, to just help reprogram me. So I'm hoping that today, even though you guys are going to learn from some top producers today, you're going to hear about negotiating strategies, you're going to hear about, some just strategies for your business, right? That part is the tactical part, and you're going to hear from some really awesome speakers today. I just want to give you an opportunity to open up your mind, your heart, and to really share some stories that have allowed me to really take real estate as a vehicle to change my life, but also to impact not only my family's life, but other people's lives. And ultimately, I think that was the goal that Colby and the team really wanted to do, is get you guys ready to become the best leaders and surround yourself with leaders who will give you permission to dream big, who will no longer allow you to play small, who will push you to become the best version of yourself. So I want you to get curious. I want you to give yourself permission. And I want you to just maybe kind of relate through my story. And then also, let's talk a little bit about what you're going to commit to doing after you leave this room today. So I want you to be brave enough to get uncomfortable. I want you to be brave enough to today walk up to a person and say, hey, I'm struggling in this area of my business, but today's the last day that I'm going to, struggle, because I'm now going to give myself permission to take action. I'm going to give myself permission to say, you know what? I know that it's June, it's the first week of June in 2025, and my business is not exactly where I want it to be, but I know that maybe it's that limited belief or that drunk monkey in my head that's telling me, don't start that YouTube channel, you suck. Or, you don't belong on social media, or you're irrelevant. All of those lies, we're going to leave them behind today, okay? And I want you to be brave enough to say, I'm going to start today. I'm going to pick up the phone, that thing that feels like really, really heavy, that brick. How many of you guys in the room are with PhDs? Just most of you, right? Most of you. Those of you who are saying, who do I dream of being in business with? because I genuinely care about their business and I genuinely would want to work with people I like, right? But some of you guys are afraid to pick up the phone because what are you doing? You're saying no for them, right? How many of you guys have already said they're never coming for them? Right? You said, oh, two honest people in the room. I love it. Okay? But what if I told you, through my own story, I'm going to share with you one of the hardest conversations I ever had that changed my life. I want you to be brave enough to think about, who's that person? Write their name down right now. Write their name down right now. Who do you know you need to call? Not because of the money, but just because, ooh, we can do so much together. They inspire me. Their energy moves me, right? Who do you need to call? I would just love to be in partnership with them. Write the name down. Those of us who are leaders. We just love changing people's lives. I love being around my partners. They inspire me. They push me. They do not give me permission to play small. Who's that person? Write their name down. Put yourself in scenarios where you feel super unqualified. Okay? I want you to change that mindset. That when you feel unqualified, that's exactly where you belong. And you're going to reframe your mind and say, I'm not unqualified. I'm preparing myself for that next version of myself. I belong in there, in that room. Because if you can think about it, really what you're doing is reverse engineering the feeling before it happened. That's all you're doing. And then on the other side, you're going to be so proud that you became that person. Hey, Lindsay. Hi, boo. Push yourself outside of your limits, even when it feels super scary. And I want you to connect on a human level. We are all in the people business. That's it. When I got recruited to EXP, here's one of the funniest stories. A lot of people here, and they don't believe. Carlos Sherman is my sponsor. I had already made the decision that I was coming, but I didn't know how. I was trapped in my RE/MAX grant, and I was miserable. I had handcuffs. I had to figure out a way how to sell my brokerage. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I couldn't unsee the opportunity that was in front of me. So I would stay up at night thinking about it, dreaming about it, watching, like low-key jealous of the people that had freedom. And it was Carlos Sherman, because it kind of leaked that I was searching. And he felt the most unqualified. He'd never sold more than 30 homes, which 30 homes is a big deal, guys, by the way. But when he was approaching me, he was like, she's that RE/MAX lady. I was kind of known as like a little shark in my market. But I was lonely. I was struggling in my relationships. I didn't have a lot of friends. And he was the only one that connected on a human level. And everyone else was like, girl, you're a beast. You can do this. We can crush it here. He was the only one that leaned in and says, tell me about you and Tony. How are you guys doing? Tell me about your dreams as a mom, as a wife. And that was the key to my heart. Someone cared enough to connect on a human level with me. All those top producers that you're afraid to call, they probably cry themselves to sleep at night. Because they probably don't have leverage, they don't have balance, they're afraid, they don't have relationships. Maybe some of them have it, right? But in my life, I was struggling in that area because I was raising 5 kids. I was in a franchise that I wasn't happy. It was all work. I was selling 300-400 homes a year. I had no life. I didn't know how to get off the hamster wheel. But it was someone who asked me about my dreams and my aspirations. That was the one that I said, that's who I want to be in business with. And I remember him being so genuine. I watched how he loved his wife. I watched how he carried himself. I watched how he was just a God-fearing man, a man that was just so kind. He was the avatar of who I wanted to surround myself with. It wasn't about how many homes he sold. It was about the heart and how he carried himself. That's why I want you to say, to connect with people on a human level. Because you are one relationship away from your life changing. And I remember looking at him when I made my decision. I said, I'm going to change his life. Because I'm a great running man. And I work really hard. And I'm going to change this man's life. Because he's changing my life in a way that he will never understand. No amount of misplace the blessing that he brought into my life. So go out there and be someone's blessing. When you have, okay, so think about when the last time you felt unqualified but you still showed up. I love that. I love it. That is what I want you to do. Show up when you don't feel qualified. Let me show you a little bit about my story. I'm gonna share some images here. Who are you being brave for? We talked about that. This isn't about stats, guys. This is about the legacy that you're leaving, whether it's for your family. Who are you the insurance for? So this is a moment I felt unqualified. Some of you guys might know, if we're connected, you might know my husband, and you might see some people. Jackie, you know Harold, right? He's on there. Actually, that's how we know each other. This is a moment I feel unqualified. I signed up to hike the equivalent of Mount Everest. I mean, like the 29029, if you've ever heard of it, for those freaks of you out there who like to do really hard stuff, I was like, I'm so unqualified to do this. Everyone else prepares a whole year for this, and here I am, I'm like, that sounds brutal. But I started seeing the people who were doing this, I was like, ooh, they're inspiring. And I remember my husband and my partner signed up for it, and I'm cheering them on. I'm like, you guys are gonna do great. You guys are gonna do great. And Harold said to me, you know, you should do it with us. I said, no, I'm unqualified. And he said, you really should do it with us. And my husband says, this is supposed to be my race, not hers. And I was like, well, I can't even sign up even if I wanted to. And Harold said to me, if anybody can get in, it's you. I called my good friend Brian Cooperneck. I was like, hey, how do I get on that 29 on 29 thing? He's like, oh, that's like locked out a year in advance. It's like, no way. Calls me 2 weeks later. He says, you really want to get in? I got a ticket. I'm like, you kidding me, right? So, I mean, this is a big deal. It costs a lot of money. And the people who are going on there, and we'll wrap up, but the people who are going on these mountains are like really, really high level people. I was like, oh man, I want to be in that room. But it's really expensive and hard to get in. And these people train, and here I am 2 months out, totally unqualified. I'm doing it. I'm so doing it. So I ended up, I didn't summit, but I did summit, the equivalent of Kilimanjaro, 2 summits. It was awesome, 36 hours of hiking, pushing myself, really pushing myself outside of my comfort level. And I was like, this is awesome. Walking in the forest, in the woods, all by yourself, seeing all these positive quotes, seeing people become community, seeing people who were fit, not finished, but people who weren't fit, finished, because it was all in their mindset. 70-year-olds crossing the finish line with their son and their daughters, people who were 300 pounds and just saying, I'm pushing myself way beyond my limits, crossing the finish line. People who were super fit, having breakdowns and not being able to make it because they let their mindset get the best of them. And I learned so much on that hike. What's really interesting is who I became on the other side of it. So Spring Benson is one of my partners, and she was the #1 female, I would say, equivalent to some of the rock stars in our company at another company. She was probably one of the highest earners in revenue share, selling 600 plus homes, just a rock star. If you don't know who she is, follow her. And I remember when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, my whole life felt like it was falling apart. And I had the privilege to spend time with my mom because I had built something to give me freedom to spend some time with her. And all I wanted was my mom to just be healthy. I remember getting to my knees and saying, God, whatever you put on my heart, like, just save my mom. And whatever you put on my heart and whatever my purpose is, I will do no matter how crazy it is. That, you know, my mom, thank God she's here today. She's cancer. You know, she's in remission. And, you know, I had some partners leave when I was vulnerable. I was like, what's going on? This feels like I'm getting beat up in life. And then I'll never forget, I was kind of negotiating with God, and I was like, you got me? You know, whatever you put on my heart, I'll do. But, like, this is getting hard on me. He says, I need you to trust me. And he says, I need you to call Spring. I was like, what? And he says, I need you to call Spring. I was like, that's crazy. She's the #1 recruiter. She's the #1 earner. She's making 7 figures at a different company. He says, you got to call Spring. Spring happened to be on that mountain, and we connected on a human level. From the day I called Spring to the day she joined, it was less than a year. Today she's right now one of the number one growers at EXP, and she joined because I decided to believe. That's us at NASDAQ. Now I want you guys to think about what you're ready to do. So I'm going to use some examples real quick because I've got to wrap up. But this is Alexis, which also just recently partnered back. She left and came back. She started her YouTube channel less than a year and a half ago. 60 transactions last year just from YouTube. 75 is, she's on track for 75 this year. 60 homes from YouTube. I didn't feel ready, but I went anyway. This is Lydia. She started on my team. Never had a Zillow lead, never had any paid leads. When she decided to grow, she generates about 800 to 1,000 leads on Instagram every week. Started her page a year and a half ago. I don't know what you are doing to generate business, but if you take a screenshot of this, and I'll make sure Chloe has it, there is no excuse as to why you're not generating business right now. There are ways. You just have to decide, what are you going to go all in on? It's not that hard, but it starts with making a decision, like we talked about earlier. Who are you doing it for? What are you going to do? What's the action that you're going to take? Who are you going to surround yourself that's going to inspire you and remind you and hold you accountable? But pick a category and go all in. Stop making excuses. This is a challenge my team did over the last 90 days. I say 90 days because they did a 60-day challenge we kicked it off 90 days ago. It's a very simple challenge. They did 50 open houses, 5,000 dials, 50 video tours, 50 CMAs, each agent. So I ask you, maybe you can do something as simple as this. I don't need you to do a lot. I just need you to decide. The results, my team executed 84 contracts. That's actually wrong. 84 contracts in the month of April. In the month of May, 75. In the month of May, 75 executed contracts. In the month of April, 82. This is supposed to be a bad market, right? But it comes down to what you're willing to do. Here are some of the tools that we use. Here's some of the just resources. But the reality is that all we did as a community is make a decision. And it's really simple. I ask you again, who are you being prayed for? Do you have someone that you can tie what you do to? As I wrap up, I want you to decide the agent that you're going to be today, moving forward. Closing out 2025. Let's make a commitment to really, really be the insurance for our family. What happens if you don't become that person? What are the pros and cons? I'll tell you, for me, she's never going to have to worry. My mother and my father are my responsibility, and I'm going to make sure I leave a legacy that they're always going to know their daughter is always going to work hard to make them proud. What are you doing this for? This is my thing. What most people don't know is that to the year when my mother was diagnosed and is now in remission, my mother-in-law now is diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. But guess what? We want to give them the best life these years that we could be with them, and they're not going to have to worry. So I ask you again one more time to think about, who are you doing this for, who are you doing insurance? And make sure you surround yourself around really awesome people. People that are going to make sure that you don't just go. Go be brave, my friends. Start today.